And now the Biden family is exposed for bribery, corruption, and treason. Good morning, Boston. Okay, my friends, there is now no question. It is now 1,000% undeniable. The FBI is a politicized, completely corrupt, compromised agency, along obviously with the Department of Justice, and they are now engaged in a massive stonewalling obstruction campaign. They are now deliberately covering up the known crimes of President Joe Biden. And yesterday, it all came out. To me, this is now Watergate 2.0. The document, the smoking gun document is there, just like the missing tape in the Watergate investigation. And now they are trying to stonewall, obstruct, sweep under the rug, suppress, hang on for dear life. James Comer, the House Oversight Chair, met one last time with the FBI, and in particular with FBI Director Christopher Wray. That scumbag. And he asked for the last time, we want you to hand over the bribery Biden document, which details, according now to an informant now that Comer tells us, and others now in a briefing were also told by the FBI, an informant that goes back 10 years, has worked with the FBI all the way back to the Obama administration. Apparently, by the FBI's own description and definition, a, quote, highly credible, effective informant who has been paid six figures. So this is someone that the FBI has used on multiple investigations in multiple cases going back many, many years, who they have paid generously, who they believe is highly credible, highly believable. There is now, as this informant documented and detailed in a form, an FBI-generated form, it's called an FD 1023, it is now clear that then Vice President Biden engaged in pay-to-play corruption. In particular, what is now in that smoking gun document that Comer has repeatedly requested and that the FBI now refuses to hand over is that then Vice President Biden demanded and received through multiple different bank accounts and shell companies, $5 million. And in exchange for this, changed his policy position, or to be more specific, changed the policy position of the then Obama regime in which he was the point man on. As you know, he was the point man on China. He was the point man on Ukraine. He was the point man on Romania. He was the point man on certain key countries for the Biden administration. And in that document, it is all clearly laid out. Biden took money and in exchange sold the United States down the river. They changed policy to benefit this foreign national and the country that this foreign national was representing. Well, yesterday was their last final chance. They told Comer he could see the document in person, but that they would not hand over custody of this Biden bribery document to the House Oversight Committee. The reason is obvious. Once Comer has his hands on it, he will disseminate it not just among committee members, but more importantly, throughout Congress, to the media, and most importantly, to the public. Joe Biden is finished. Like Nixon, he will be forced to resign in disgrace, or else face imminent impeachment, and the Democrats, or many of them, will have to convict. because the evidence is insurmountable and irrefutable. Instead, the FBI again told Kuhner to go pound sand, to basically go fly a kite. And the reason why they're claiming they can't hand it over, it's their traditional excuse. We can't reveal methods and sources. Well, this is an unclassified document. It's an unclassified document that now the FBI and Director Wray has admitted to Kuhner and to others on the House Oversight Committee directly implicates Joe Biden in a pay-to-play bribery scheme. The FBI behind closed doors are not even denying it. They're admitting it, these crooks. And yet they're still protecting Biden. So what the FBI has now been reduced to, what the Department of Justice has now been reduced to, is nothing more than a cover-up operation to protect Christopher Wray, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and the entire Biden crime family. They have now become not just a joke, but they have now become complicit in the crimes of the regime. Listen now to James Comer yesterday saying they refused to hand over the document. Now we have no choice. On Thursday, we will initiate contempt of Congress proceedings against Director Christopher Wray. Roll cut 2, Mike.
FBI officials confirmed that the unclassified FBI-generated record has not been disproven and is currently being used in an ongoing investigation. The confidential human source who provided information about then Vice President Biden being involved in a criminal bribery scheme is a trusted, highly credible informant who has been used by the FBI for over 10 years and has been paid over 6 figures. These are facts, and no amount of spin and frankly lies from the White House or congressional Democrats can change this information.
No, they can't. It's there. It's just there, sitting there. And like the tape that brought down Nixon, the moment that document is released, it's over. It's irrefutable, concrete, on paper. On paper. You've got it. On paper. You've got the accounts. You've got the money. You've got the receipts. You've got the quid pro quo. You've got the whole thing. The whole thing. My friends, we have a traitor in the White House. This is treason. This is the stuff that in the old days would get you hanged. This is exactly why, by the way, our founding fathers implemented impeachment and put in the impeachment clause. We have not just bribery. We don't just have pay to play. We don't just have corruption, public corruption of the highest order, but corruption in order to benefit a foreign power in exchange for money. Now, according to what Congressman Comer, Chair Comer, James Comer has now said, this Thursday, they will initiate contempt of Congress proceedings against Wray. It will then move to the House floor. It looks like they clearly have the votes to hold Christopher Wray in contempt of Congress. Roll cut 3, Mike.
At the briefing, the FBI again refused to hand over the unclassified record to the custody of the House Oversight Committee, and we will now initiate contempt of Congress hearings this Thursday.
Okay. Now, I know many are poo-pooing it, saying, well, big deal, Jeff. Ooh, why don't you just thumb your nose at FBI Director Wray? Nothing is going to happen. This is basically a slap on the wrist. Yes, for now. No question, for now. But what a contempt of Congress charge will do, it will be referred to the Department of Justice for them to prosecute. It's clear Merrick Garland has now told Chris Wray, don't worry about it. We're thick as thieves. We will not prosecute, even though the evidence is now overwhelming. It's irrefutable. Biden is a traitor, Biden is a crook, and Christopher Wray is deliberately obstructing and covering up for him. Okay, this is classic stonewalling. So the regime is going to stick together. But here's now what I think the Republicans need to do. Once you hold them officially in contempt of Congress, defund the FBI. Defund the entire leadership of the FBI. Just in the appropriations process, say, unless you hand over that document, not a penny. Not an absolute penny. And here's the second thing now the Republicans need to do if they've got the stones to do it. Go to their districts, get on every local radio station, local TV station, the way the Democrats did against Nixon. And as they demanded, hand over the tapes again and again and again. It is now time for Republicans to say, hand over the Biden bribery document. Hand it over. And have this become a deafening cry across the country. Put so much pressure that they have to hand it over. What are they hiding? Your calls next.
Hey, this is Chuck Nolan. Tell Alexa to play WZLX on iHeartRadio and be listening this afternoon at 2:50. I have tickets for you to see John Mellencamp this Saturday night.
6:19 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, there's also a very frightening dimension now, or at least a chilling dimension to what is now being unveiled. So, as you know, Biden is now clearly involved. He's guilty. There's the only reason why the FBI is covering this up. It's because he's guilty. And in private, they've already told Comer and others that they believe Biden was involved, that the evidence is clear. It's there. So they're covering up for Joe Biden. There's no doubt about it now. This alleged $5 million bribery scheme while Joe Biden was serving as a Barack Obama's vice president. Now, by the way, this also implicates Obama. Because there is no way in hell that the grifter that Biden was and is, and he's making money hand over fist, selling interests of our country to foreign countries, was not known by the dear leader. There's no question. There's no question that Obama, at a minimum, knew and clearly gave it the green light. There's no question about it. Now, what is also coming out is this. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, one of the rising stars in the Republican Party. She's a conservative from Florida. She's part of the House Oversight Committee. She was also there in the meeting with the FBI when they refused to hand over the Biden bribery document. And even though they were told, this is going to now initiate contempt of Congress, they don't care. So, okay, here is what she wrote. Quote, just left the meeting for House Oversight. The FBI is afraid, this is what they're now claiming, their informant will be killed if unmasked, based on the information he has brought forward about the Biden family. The Congresswoman added that according to the FBI, Biden, as vice president, was involved in a $5 million bribery scheme with a foreign national. And so what is now one of the excuses, this is how sick and cynical all this is now becoming. One of the excuses the FBI is now making is that we cannot hand over this smoking gun document because this highly credible informant that has been working with the FBI for over 10 years, dating all the way back to the Obama years, someone who they've paid six figures. In other words, they've used this informant multiple cases, multiple investigations. So they can't spin that this guy's a liar. Now says, you reveal my identity, I'm a dead man. Because I've got Biden 6 ways to Sunday. And that the Biden regime, Democratic operatives, I will not live to see the sunrise if my name comes out and they know who I am. So in private, they're claiming, no, don't do this. Jimmy, Comer, no, Jimmy, don't do this. She'll get the poor guy killed. So you mean to tell me that the evidence is so damning, so irrefutable, so powerful, so overwhelming, that if this person's name comes out and the information comes out, someone's going to kill him, and you're covering up for this criminal, authoritarian, thuggish regime? Instead of denouncing the threats on this man, instead of saying we're going to protect him, we'll put him in witness protection, we'll do whatever we have to do, and we've got a gangster and a traitor in the White House, and we as the FBI will no longer allow this to take place and tolerate this? Instead, they're claiming, no, you release this. Hey, we release this. This informant, his days are numbered. He's dead. So this is now how devious, how diabolical, and how corrupt the FBI has become. And so this is just the tip of the iceberg. Absolutely the tip of the iceberg. And what I find most shocking of all is that Christopher Wray clearly now is a criminal on par with the Bidens. He's a criminal on par with Merrick Garland. And he has now directly implicated himself in a massive cover-up. And so what Republicans now need to do, what conservatives need to do, what the entire conservative media, whatever there is of it, needs to do, is just like in 1973, 1974. Show us the Watergate tape. Hand over the tape. We want to see the tape. Day after day after day after day after day. Until there was so much public pressure, so much public outcry, that Nixon was eventually forced to hand over the tape, and then his goose was cooked. We have to do the exact same thing now when it comes to the Biden bribery document. This is the proverbial smoking gun. And the fact that the FBI will not hand it over, the fact that the FBI is desperately stonewalling and obstructing, the fact that the FBI in private is admitting that the document is authentic and the document is true, and that it's so true that this informant may end up being killed if his name or her name, I don't know the gender, but his or her name is revealed. Ay. This cannot be allowed to stand. And so it is now time to find out what the Republicans are made of, and frankly, what conservatives in the media are made of. Because it's obvious. The regime is now closing ranks. The DOJ, the FBI are now deliberately stonewalling, covering up, and protecting the crimes of Joe Biden and his degenerate family. .32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, what is now clear, there's no getting around this fact, is that the FBI, the DOJ are now clearly stonewalling. They know Biden is a traitor. It's all there in that Biden bribery document. $5 million. This is now, there's a lot more evidence of his corruption, influence peddling, but in terms of you want smoking gun, irrefutable, on paper. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It's just, you can't get more hard evidence than this. $5 million bribery scheme, pay to play, in which Joe Biden, as vice president, was paid $5 million, apparently now according to Kuhner. The document details this was done through certain bank accounts or banks, shell accounts, the way the Bidens have always done it. But he received $5 million, then Vice President Biden, in exchange for changing policy positions. Now, this is beyond corruption. It's even beyond bribery. It is literally sedition and treason. Now, they are covering up for him. The document is there, and they refuse to hand it over. He is guilty as sin. This is now beyond this. To me, this is beyond an argument. This is beyond a discussion. It is obvious, or else they would not be trying to prevent it from being handed over. Kuhner now is going to initiate contempt of Congress proceedings. It's going to go to a House vote. Then it will be referred to the DOJ for a criminal prosecution. It is very clear that a dirty deal was cut between Kuhner and Merrick Garland. Garland saying, you just keep protecting Joe and keep protecting the crimes of the Biden family, and I will protect you and you protect us. So we're talking now the way the mob operates. This is RICO territory. This is racketeering. This is a conspiracy to engage in a criminal enterprise and to protect a criminal enterprise. We're dealing now with political thugs and political gangsters. So much so that one of the members on the House Oversight Committee, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, admitted yesterday after her meeting with the FBI, she met with Kuhner and others, that in private, Wray and senior FBI officials said, if we release the name of this informant, if this document is handed over, he fears for his life. The regime will kill him, or somebody tied to the regime will assassinate or kill him. So they bump you off if you're considered a quote-unquote whistleblower or a snitch or whatever. So now they're even threatening to murder people if they dare expose the crimes and the treason of this regime. So here is now what Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna wrote on Twitter. Quote, it's simple. Christopher Wray needs to do his job and answer to Congress, or else he will be held in contempt. What we're seeing with the Biden family's bribery schemes is clearly grounds for impeachment. It's time to impeach at Joe Biden and begin a house cleaning of the FBI and the DOJ now. Yep. I mean, there is no question about it. Absolutely none. Now, I want to play one more cut, and I want to go right to the phone lines. 617-266-6868. I swear, the only thing Joe Biden doesn't have is the accent of Marlon Brando when he played The Godfather. No, really, that's the only thing. Yeah, show me no respect. Come here and offer me a $1 million payment for my services, and you think I'm going to support you? That's the only thing. If your enemies would be my enemies, and your friends would be my friends, and for $5 million, hell, you could even marry my daughter. I mean, it's just the only thing missing from this thug in the White House is that accent. That's about it. Listen now to Kuhner. Roll cut for Mike.
Given the severity and complexity of the allegations contained within this record, Congress must investigate further. Americans have lost trust in the FBI's ability to enforce the law impartially and demand answers, transparency, and accountability. The investigation is not dead. This is only the beginning. It appears this investigation is part of an ongoing investigation, which I assume is in Delaware. The Oversight Committee will follow the facts and be transparent to the American people with our findings.
Yeah, look, the only problem I have with Comer, he's gathering devastating evidence. I mean, he's got him by the tonsils now. He's got him. The document is released, Biden falls. The way the Watergate tapes. The Watergate tapes finish Nixon, this will finish Biden. I don't think you need more investigations. I don't think you need to be compiling more information. I think now is the time for action. Okay, you've got your case, you've built your case, you've got all the hard evidence you need. It's solid. It's rock solid. It's irrefutable. Now it's time to pull the proverbial trigger. Like, okay, I know you want to go step by step. Go step by step then. Fine. Contempt of Congress. Fine. Refer it to the DOJ. They'll do nothing. And then defund the FBI, defund the DOJ, and tell McCarthy to get off his rear end and start impeaching Biden. And, well, Jeff, they won't convict in the Senate. It doesn't matter. The truth is the truth is the truth. Can you imagine if the House Republicans introduce articles of impeachment? Everything then focuses on this Biden bribery document. The whole country will say, what? What's going on? What? Why are they impeaching him? Well, yeah, we want to see the document. Well, no, if Biden's not guilty, what's he covering up? They should hand over the document. So the pressure will grow and grow and grow and grow until it just busts the dam. Busts that wall of protection, that wall of silence, that stonewalling, this wall of conspiracy. And then we finally get our hands on the document, unredacted, and it's game, set, and match. Agree, disagree. Is the time for talk over? And is it time now to initiate not just contempt of Congress against Christopher Wray, but now to demand the impeachment of Biden, the impeachment of Garland, the impeachment of Wray? Is it time now to go after this criminal cabal? I say yes. What do you say? And what do you make of the fact, this stunning revelation, that now this FBI informant, the whistleblower, says if his name gets out, the Biden regime will put a bounty on his head. He will be killed. He's a dead man. Have we now crossed into Vladimir Putin territory? 617-266-6868 is the number. Let's go to Mel in New York. Thanks for holding, Mel, and welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Jeffrey. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Hi. In regards to what you had mentioned about prosecution of Joe Biden, can anybody say they need to change gigante? I've said this to you several times. I don't believe that this guy has dementia. He hasn't gotten where he is by being mentally ill. That's going to be his out. When and if it's a very slim chance that he'll ever be prosecuted. But how we can overcome that? I mean, the directors of the U.S. Marshal Service, they are patriots too, I would have to think, and they're taxpayers. They have family. They have children. They have children. They got grandkids. They're not going to want their kids to grow up in a society like this, that this criminal in the Oval Office and those that are behind him and those that are behind them pulling the strings, what they need to do is have a simultaneous raid on Garland, Wray, the White House, Kamala Harris too, so that way she can't get in that seat. Whenever they are removed, they have to be removed. There can't be any impeachment. They have to be removed and flown off to Gitmo to wait their time to stand trial. And like you say, the whistleblower, who they claim that the person, he or she, will be murdered. if he comes forth. Well, us taxpayers, don't we pay for, as I just mentioned?
Oh, no, you're right. No, look, we pay for the FBI. We pay for witness protection. No, put this person in a witness protection program and let the Biden administration know if one hair is touched on his or her head, we're coming after them. More next. .648 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text us 70470, 70470. And as always, you can email the Kuhner Man. Jeff, they aren't protecting Biden. Let's be clear. They're stonewalling to protect Obama. Or more specifically, Obama's quote-unquote legacy. There's no way on God's green earth that Obama didn't know what was going on. You're dead on. You're absolutely dead on. No, there's no question. Look, that document, among many documents, captures what went on when Biden was vice president, after he left the vice presidency, while he's president now, but all of this that took place during the Obama regime. There's no way in hell Obama didn't know. Of course he knew. And they were all in on it. All of them. Now remember, Obama's worth north of $1 billion. $1 billion. Not a million. $1 billion. Not 100 million. $1 billion. So he's an oligarch. He's become an instant billionaire ever since he left the presidency. And for some reason, the Democrats are okay with that. Like, you don't realize the corruption involved, the pay to play, the influence peddling to rack up that much cash. So what Biden was doing is what Hillary was doing. This was the Hillary Bill model. It's what the Clintons did. Sell the country out in exchange for lining their pockets. So, but we've got a document that clearly, specifically lays out $5 million he took through shell accounts, banks, in exchange for completely changing U.S. policy. There's no getting around it. So did Obama know? Of course he knew. So if this exposes Biden, remember, this is when he was as vice president, it clearly then destroys Obama's legacy. So this is now about protecting the derelict Barack Hussein Obama at all costs. He is the ultimate big guy. He's the godfather. These are the crime families. Multiple, the Genovese crime family, the different crime families, the Lucchese crime family. But this is Don Corleone. This is the godfather. That's Obama. So you have to protect him at all costs. Now, many of you are weighing in on contempt of Congress, and you're making a very, very good point. If McCarthy really had some stones, if he really had some guts, there is something he could do against Christopher Wray. And let me just read to you an email I got. Jeff, the Sergeant at Arms. It is my understanding that one thing can be done. Once FBI Director Christopher Wray is held in contempt of Congress, the Sergeant at Arms can then be ordered to place Wray under arrest, where he would then be brought back and detained, possibly indefinitely, in the jail that is under the U.S. Capitol building. Where it would legally go from there is beyond my understanding at this point, but it would make one hell of a spectacle for the public. Dead on. So, in theory, legally, once Christopher Wray is held in contempt of Congress, and we're not talking about defying just any ordinary subpoena, we are talking about a document that will fully unmask and expose that the President of the United States is a crook, a criminal, and a traitor. It's, you want to talk about high crimes and misdemeanors. This is it. Okay, bribery and treason are two specifically mentioned, are specifically mentioned in the Constitution for grounds for impeachment. So if you're going to be doing that, then you hold him in contempt of Congress. If the corrupt Department of Justice won't do anything, as Nancy Pelosi herself said, there's a brig. There is a jail underneath the Capitol building. And if Wray should step foot on Capitol Hill, if Wray should enter the House, if Wray should testify in front of Congress, then the Sergeant of Arms can legally grab him, place handcuffs on him, and then take him down to that jail, that brig, and hold him there indefinitely. Now, it would cause a massive uproar. The media would go ballistic. The Dems would go ballistic. It would go to the Supreme Court. I mean, it would go to the courts and then fast track to the Supreme Court. But the point is this. It would create a massive public spectacle. The whole country was saying, what? The corrupt FBI director just got arrested? Why? Why? Because he's covering up the Biden crime family. Because he's covering up the crimes of Biden and the regime. And that there is a Biden bribery document, and this document spells everything out. And he will not hand it over. Once the country understands that there is this smoking gun document, again, it's like Watergate and the tapes, the outcry, the demand will be deafening. We want the document and we want it now. Hand it over. If the Republicans have the guts, they can hold Wray more than just in contempt of Congress. They can actually arrest him. And I am urging, for the sake of the country, for the sake of our national security, this con man in the White House, this Benedict Arnold, must no longer be allowed to stay there. This man is an existential threat to the United States of America. And everybody now around him who is defending him is complicit. Now, let me just make one other point, and then I want to go to the blazing phone lines. 617-266-6868. In fact, let me ask this question. Do you think the Republicans should arrest Christopher Wray once they pass contempt of Congress? Once he's held in contempt of Congress, should they, and they refer it to the DOJ will do nothing, we know that. Should they then say, you know what, the hell with it. Sergeant at Arms, he steps foot on Capitol Hill, arrest his ass. Should Christopher Wray be hauled off in handcuffs and placed in the jail underneath the Capitol building and held there indefinitely until they hand over the document? Yes or no? I'm a 1,000% yes. This smug, arrogant weasel, this little rat, needs to have that smile wiped off his face. Now, the other big story is in front of our eyes. We're now being told, this is, by the way, maybe the biggest story in the world right now. How this is not front page news everywhere is beyond me. The Biden regime essentially has an assassination squad. That's what Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, that's the news she essentially broke when she said, whoa. Comer, myself, other members of the House Oversight Committee met with Wray and the FBI. And they said, no, this informant is now worried for his life. And if this document ever sees the light of day, he's a dead man. He's petrified. He's going to be killed. Well, it's not just this informant. Another big story is Tara Reid. You know her, the poor woman that was digitally raped by Joe Biden when he was a senator. Tara Reid is now scheduled to testify in front of Congress about what happened to her and how she was raped. She wants to tell her story again. And the Republicans now want to give her a hearing. Well, now she has been repeatedly threatened by Democratic operatives who have told her, you go in front of Congress, because this would be under oath, and you swear and testify under oath that Biden digitally raped you, we will kill you. Do you understand? You're dead. And so this poor woman is now in fear of her life, and they've also told her, don't think you can go to Canada and hide. Don't think you can go to France or Switzerland or Germany or wherever, because our reach is deep, it's broad, it's wide. So this poor woman, fearing for her life, is now going to Russia. I'm not kidding. Putin's Russia. She's asked for help, saying, please, I don't feel safe. They told me they can get me anywhere. I need to go to a place where I know they can get me and kill me. So Tara Reid now is looking to buy an apartment or whatever and start living in Russia because she believes that if she testifies, she will be assassinated. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. We are becoming an authoritarian dictatorship. The January 6ers are being sent to jail left, right, and center. Opponents of the regime are now being spied on. Christian Catholic churches are being infiltrated. Conservatives are now being spied on. Many of them are also being targeted by the IRS. Others are being arrested. People are being censored. And now, if you pose a real threat to the regime by exposing the fact that Biden is a rapist, or by exposing the fact that he's a traitor and a criminal, now they threaten to put a bullet in your brain? And they're lecturing us about Vladimir Putin? And they're lecturing us about Donald Trump? And how Trump poses a threat to the Constitution. Trump is a dictator. He's a tyrant. He's Hitler. Look in the mirror. These are the animals and the thugs and the gangsters that you have unleashed upon our country. So I want to ask you, is it now time for FBI Director Christopher Wray to be held in contempt of Congress? Is it time now for FBI Director Christopher Wray to be arrested and put in the Capitol Hill jail? In other words, is it time to decapitate the regime? 617-266-6868 is the number. Or do you think the spineless, yellow-livered, cowardly Republicans will do what they always do? Fold like a cheap suit cave. Do you think anything will come of this? Or are they just spinning their wheels? 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Anthony in Michigan. Thanks for holding, Anthony, and welcome.
Dr. Kuhner, on the Sergeant of Arms and Ray, they can't even let kids sing with that Pelosi cabal they still got running the place. Do you think they're going to do that? Seriously, Jeff.
So you think Kevin McCarthy's not going to crack some heads and say, I'm ordering you, arrest this guy?
I think Nancy has a lockbox. Never mind Hillary at this point.
Anthony, what do you make of this smoking gun Biden bribery document? The FBI behind the scenes, behind closed doors, are even admitting it's true. They're admitting the president is a crook and a traitor, and they're still protecting the guy.
You said what I've been saying to myself privately for months, if not a year or two, and I really didn't want to say it, but you got to ask yourself, is Biden a capitan, but he may not be the tutu di capo or the Commendatore. You know how these organizations work. You're always moving it up, right? You got to pay up. So who is he paying up? So, I don't know. I can't afford a place in Maui in the vineyard. You know what I mean, Jeff?
So you think ultimately this is really about, the Godfather. This is about protecting the dear leader, Obama.
How can it not be? I mean, I think that, I don't mean to wax poetically here, but how wasn't The Sopranos a treatise or a 101 or 201 course on how things really roll with the corrupt? I mean, it really was in a lot of ways, It's very interesting, Jeff.
No, you're right. Everybody answers to a boss, They just keep going up that food chain. Everybody answers to somebody. And we know who Obama answers to. So, he's in bed with the globalists, he's in bed with the World Economic Forum, and he's certainly in bed with Communist China. I mean, they feathered his nest. I mean, $1 billion. He's worth at least $1 billion. He's a billionaire. And he became a billionaire within 2 years of his presidency. So, I mean, I think that's the going rate now to buy a U.S. president. Really. Biden is, essentially his family, they're billionaires. $1 billion. And Obama, $1 billion. I mean, it's not even that expensive. $1 billion for the communist Chinese, that's tipping money. So, Anthony, it looks like the going rate. Chris Christie says he's going to jump into the race today. Put $1 billion in his bank account, and he'll tell you he'll do whatever you want him to do. I think it's pretty obvious now. $80 million buys you a senator like Mitch McConnell. But you want to buy the White House, you need $1 billion.
Jeff, I don't know if you yesterday, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was on with Elon and a bunch of these new crew of leftists that have gone centrist because the world has gone crazy, like Malcolm Schellenberger was there and Tulsi Gabbard. They did a Twitter town hall podcast live, and it's been recorded. In terms of the Democratic Party going back to its roots and or getting rid of this corruption, Kennedy is like the guy, but I don't think they'll let him do it. I really don't.
Oh, here's another one. No. Look, I'm going to be very candid with you. It's going to get me in trouble, but if I'm not here to speak the truth, what's the point? You're completely right. If Robert F. Kennedy Jr. begins to pose a very serious threat to Biden, and I've never seen anything like this, really, ever. No media coverage, none, complete blackout. He's doing, podcasts, he's doing little, radio shows here and there, but essentially the corporate media has blacklisted this guy. He's at 30%. He's at 30%. And if things continue, he may be at 40. I mean, he could start to pose a real threat to Biden if he draws blood in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. If he really weakens Biden, I'd be very worried for his life. I'm being honest with you. They took out his father. I wouldn't be surprised if they take him out. Because he's going after Biden and he's going after the deep state hard. He is really exposing the CIA, the FBI, COVID, the lockdowns. He's not letting up. So, Anthony, you're right. He's asking the party to return to its roots. And he is going after the permanent state, as it's called, the swamp, in many ways from the left, the way Trump is hitting it from the right. But he's after that swamp, and he's after it hard. And if he's not careful, he may end up just like his father. Anthony, really, really good call. Thank you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Dan in Dartmouth. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Dan.
Riveting stuff this morning.
Thank you, Dan.
Well, my feeling is that what Anthony has said rings true, and this all goes back to the time period, 2015, who was the FBI director at the time? James Comer.
Comey.
Yeah, Comey. And so Comey knew, and Comey also was involved with suggesting or recommending a pardon of Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton had the Clinton Foundation going on. And so this was going on even prior to Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden learned a lot from the Clintons and started his own racketeering as well. And so this all goes back even to the CIA. So John Brennan knew as well. All of these guys were in on it. And so you start exposing what's in that document that is at the FBI, it's going to start peeling back all the layers. And what you'll find is that it all keeps pointing right back to Obama, who potentially is even the big guy, like I said on Friday. And I think that the whole thing is needing to be exposed. We need to request and demand the FBI expose all documents associated with not only this particular bribery instance, but all documents associated with it. And I think we're going to see the layers peel back very quickly. And I think it has to be done, or else we'll always be under the cloud of suspicion that has taken place now that it's starting to be exposed. We've got to take it all back now.
Dan, I agree with you. I would just go one step further. It's not just you're right, cloud of suspicion, lack of trust. You're completely right. But I would really go one step further. We have to do it to get out from underneath their thumb. What we're witnessing now, really now it's been about 25, 30 years, is the birth of an oligarchy. And, look, if you talk about Russia, or frankly many countries in Eastern Europe, but I'm just going to use Russia because most people really understand it. Russia is a mafia state, like most Eastern European countries. Now, they just take out political out of it, but it's really a political mafia state. It is run by political gangsters, political oligarchs, and they ultimately call the shots. And you're right, they're all thick as thieves. They're a band of thieves. So this is what we're seeing now in the United States. This is not flattering. We have nothing now to teach the world. When it comes to democracy or a constitutional republic, you have Obama, who's basically Putin, and you have henchmen or people that he's connected with, like the Clintons, like the Bidens. You have the Brennans, you have the Clappers, you have the Christopher Wrays, you have the Comeys, and they basically clean up for the oligarchs. And they cover up for the oligarchs, and they spy for the oligarchs. And they don't make $1 billion, but they make 30, 40, 50, 60 million dollars. They, like in Russia, they do very, very well. And they have their corporate media to spin their lies. And when they need the intelligence services, the deep state, to do their job, they do their job. So the question is, do we want this? Because that's what's happening in the United States. Or is it time now to bring the whole thing crashing down? Your calls next. 617-266-6868 is the number. Barbara in Maryland. Thanks for holding, Barbara, and welcome.
Thanks so much for taking my call, and what a great show today.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
So much information. But the Sergeant-in-Arms story, I read about that. It has been done only once, but it has been done, and it could be done. But I think we just need to face some facts about things here as far as Republicans. There's no question of, do they have the cojones to do anything? We already know they don't. As for Kevin McCarthy, he showed us that when he gave Joe Biden that budget for 2 years until after the next election, when he could have gotten a continuing resolution for a couple of months. He didn't have to go with that budget. They could have done that. They've been doing CRs for how long? For a long time they've been doing continuing resolution.
20 years. 20 years.
Absolutely. So he had the choice. Now, I don't think anything's going to happen. And it's not a question also of who the big guy is. We already know that Joe Biden doesn't have enough sense to get out of a get himself out of a paper sack. So he is not and has never been the guy with the plan. He's the gopher who's been getting the money, and he said that in that meeting in Ukraine when he told the person he's talking to, if you don't believe that you won't get the money, call Obama. About that $1.5 billion for investigating his son. So the chips are already there. Everything is there, and it's really sad that Tara Reid is running to Russia. And I understand Matt Gaetz was one of the people that suggested her that she go there. That's how unsafe she is. The only way anyone is going to be safe is to expose it all. That's the only thing that's going to keep them all alive, because once the information is out there and it's proven, the document is out there, what would be the need to assassinate them?
Barbara, I'm just curious. What does it say about our country, about this regime, this ruling class, swamp, cartel, mafia state, whatever you want to call it now, that you have an FBI director who in private is actually admitting to members of Congress that the current president, then vice president, but now president, is a crook, is corrupt, is a traitor. And they're like, and you know, you blow the whistle on him, this informant, this information gets out there, this informant is afraid he's going to get killed. In other words, you open your big mouth and you expose, you know, the El Presidente, you could end up dead. I mean, what does this say about my God, how corrupt the FBI has become? How compromised? How corrupt and compromised their DOJ? I mean, we're talking about the commander-in-chief of the United States. And, you know, I know a lot of people didn't like J. Edgar Hoover, and believe me, he had his faults. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to defend him. But, man, he makes J. Edgar Hoover, Ray makes Hoover look like a patriot, like a saint. I mean, Barbara, am I wrong?
Obama. Obama is the godfather. He is the one. And nobody is going, and I think the Republicans know that. McCarthy knows that. They know that. And they're so afraid of being called racist. They're so, you know, white supremacists. The Democrats will start crowing that all over the place if they did it. They just have to, I don't know, grow some and just put it out there. I don't expect anything to come of this. I really don't. And the other thing that's really, really bothering me is that they're willing to go to all of these lengths to do anything to protect the Bidens and the Obamas, but they make up stuff to go after Donald Trump.
Oh, you nailed it.
The way
nailed it. You nailed it. Barbara, as always, thank you so much for that call. She's completely right. Now we know all of this about the Bidens and the Obamas and the Clintons and all of this. And look what they got to do to try to go after Trump. By the way, everything they've been calling Trump, they're guilty of. I just find like it's incredible. I'm like, geez. So you're the dictator. You're the traitor. You're in bed with other countries. I just run down the whole list. You're the seditionist. Just go right down the whole list. And what do they get him on? Bookkeeping? Bookkeeping? Now, by the way, this is breaking. You need to know this. Trump said so himself on Truth Social, but even more than that, Trump's lawyers yesterday met with the Justice Department, and in particular, people from Special Counsel Jack Smith's office. It now looks like Trump will be indicted by the Department of Justice under Jack Smith, that special counsel. It's now imminent. Whether it's going to be in the next 2 days or 3 days or a week, but it will come within the next couple of days over the classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. So already now Trump's lawyers are meeting with DOJ lawyers and representatives from Jack Smith's office. Trump says expect this any day now. More charges will be leveled against him. They're going to try to nail him now on classified documents, saying he was obstructing obstructing the National Archives, and he was apparently illegally in possession of classified documents, even though, of course, he's the president. He has the right to have those classified documents, but now they're going to indict him, and they want him in front of a Washington, D.C. jury. And in fact, they're now predicting that Trump will either be in an ankle bracelet or he will be behind bars by the time of the Republican convention in the summer next year. So, in other words, they're telling Republicans, if you vote for him in the primary, you're voting for a man that we are going to put behind bars. So you're voting for a felon, you're voting for a criminal, and you're going to be voting for someone who literally will be in jail. They're doing everything they can now to remove Trump from the ballot. So the regime now is making its move. So think about all the real crimes that are now being unmasked and exposed with Biden, and look at how they're going after an innocent, honest man on trumped-up charges. .32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, it's there. We know it's there, and we know the FBI now deliberately covering up for the corrupt Biden regime, in particular, the big guy, Dementia Joe. The smoking gun document, the FBI now confirms they do have it. They admit in private it is devastating. $5 million, a bribery scheme is detailed in which Biden, when he was vice president, took $5 million in exchange for changing policy positions of the United States and the Obama administration. Yet they refuse to hand it over on many grounds, saying it's going to they need to protect sources and methods, but now they're even going further, saying that the informant, if his name should be known, should go public, and this whistleblower's name is known, he will be assassinated. He fears he will be killed. It looks like the FBI is almost threatening to kill him if this information comes out. That's the way many members of Congress are now reading this, and it is creating shockwaves. My question to you, contempt of Congress proceedings are going to begin this Thursday. James Comer says they have refused to hand over that document into their custody. And now on Thursday, the committee will vote to hold Wray in contempt. And then there'll be a full floor vote in Congress. Christopher Wray will most likely now be held in contempt of Congress. They're also saying they're going to start defunding the FBI. What do you think Republicans need to do? Or is this enough? Or will we ever see that document? 617-266-6868. Listen now to House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer at a press conference yesterday saying, you have no idea. Yes, there is that smoking gun document, but now there are so many more we are finding, and the FBI is refusing to hand all of those documents over because it shows an unbelievable pattern of pay-to-play, bribery, corruption, and yes, treason. Roll cut 5, Mike.
Could they end up showing more Biden family business dealings with other countries?
This document was dated, I think you all know this, from the subpoena, July 30th, 2020. The claims made in the document are consistent with what we found and disclosed to you all in Romania. It suggests a pattern of bribery where payments would be made through shell accounts and multiple banks. There's a term for that. It's called money laundering. And that, again, is what the majority of the suspicious activity reports also said. So we feel that this accusation is consistent with a pattern that we're seeing, frankly, in other countries too.
And multiple documents?
We believe there are multiple documents.
It's just, I don't know. I mean, it's just like, I'm like, what country am I living in, man? Like, seriously, what is this, Moldova? Is it Croatia? Like, where's Serbia, Russia, Ukraine? Like, holy mackerel. Like, what the hell is this, man? Seriously. What am I in Belarus? Holy mackerel. 617-266-6868. Joey in Sudbury. Thanks for holding, Joey, and welcome. Did we lose Joey? Okay. Mags in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mags, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff, and as always, God bless you, and God bless Sandy, your whole crew, for everything that you do.
Thank you, Mags.
You so much. Listen, I would just like to say a couple of things. I think Tara Reid should come out in public and tell us all the names of the people that are threatening her, okay? Because at this point, all of these members of Congress, I don't care whether they're Republican or Democrat, whatever they are, they're all evil, treasonous criminals, most of them. I'd say the majority, which is disgusting at this point, okay? And the only way to fix this, which made me sad when Barbara said, I don't think anything is going to come of this. If nothing comes of this, then we are completely done, people. Okay? There's no way that if nothing comes of a standing president being caught, okay, knowing a fact, it's factual. The FBI, the CIA, all of them need to go. They need to be stopping funded immediately, okay, because they don't deserve to have any of our money. They play games against our country, against the citizens and people of the United States of America. It's disgusting, okay? And then they want to put Trump through the dump at D.C., because we all know that D.C. is just a dump, okay? And the way that they've treated God, the way that they took those boys off, that choir off of the stage at the Capitol, is just shows that they don't have any concern for us, for God, for anything that's good for our country. Obama needs to be, he's a criminal again also. And all of these criminals, if they aren't taken to military tribunals, then we should just put our head between our legs and kiss our butts goodbye. There's more of us, as I have said in the past, over and over again. There are more of us than there are of them. And we need to do something. Jeff, I don't know what it is, but we need to do something because our country is in serious trouble. And I still believe in America, and I believe there's plans, but we need to make them happen now because it's not fair to...
Mags, you're completely right. My fear is this, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. When I heard that yesterday, it happened yesterday, Trump's lawyers went literally to the Justice Department in Washington, and they met with senior DOJ officials, including people from Jack Smith, that weasel, that thug, his office. And then Trump went on Truth Social and said, get prepared. I'm going to be arrested again. This indictment is now imminent on Mar-a-Lago and the FBI raid on those so-called classified documents, quote unquote. When I saw that, I'm like, it's obvious. Now that Biden is at the breaking point, the dam is about to burst. They're going to arrest Trump on these bogus charges in order to completely deflect and distract from the cover-up and the crimes of the Biden regime and this smoking gun Biden bribery document. Because then the entire media, everything is going to be 24/7. Trump indicted again. Trump indicted again. Trump can't win. Trump will be in jail. Trump will be in an ankle bracelet. Trump will be behind bars. Trump won't even be able to campaign during the entire primary. So all of it will then be on Trump, 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 and his supposed quote-unquote crimes. And there's Biden again, and he's going to skate. What say you?
You know what's so scary, Jeff? is I completely believe in Trump, okay? And I believe that he has a plan. I believe that this is probably planned on his part. Because once they try to take him down, then he pushes more for them to take Obama and the Clintons and, Joey down, okay? Because I believe that for some reason, and I do believe it, that there's a plan, that somebody does have a plan, and I believe it is Trump. And I do pray to God every night, and I do believe that God is watching out for us, and the only thing that keeps me going is believing that God is, because after being, with Kirsten in D.C. in that dump last week, I just realized, how serious of a problem that we have in this country, how bad it is. But I still do believe that Trump has a plan. And I believe that it is going to involve our military, and we are going to take these people down. Because if we don't completely take them down, all of them, completely, we're going to be in this problem again in a very short time.
Oh, well, we're done. We're done. Mags, if we don't, we're done. There's no going back. It really is. It's going to be, as they say, darkness at noon. In other words, it's dark all the time. We're going to be entering now an era of political darkness that I don't think we'll be able to recover from. I'm being honest. So, no, I think what's going to happen is this. I think they're overplaying their hand. I think Trump, you have to look at it now from almost a communist country perspective. They're going to turn him now into a political dissident. They're already doing it. And I think the people are going to rally to him. And I think you're going to see millions go to the streets. I think the regime is playing with fire. It is the number. Steve in Boston. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Jeff, I wanted to see if you could help explain to myself and the other listeners how Trump is any more America first than RFK Jr. And if I can quickly explain you why I think RFK is actually more America first, I would say his position on the Federal Reserve, printing money, cryptocurrency innovation, and vaccines would make him more pro-America than Trump. I'll let you explain.
No, he's very good on those issues. Oh, we lost Steve. Okay. He's very good on those issues. There's no question about it. In fact, it's funny you should mention that, Steve, because Sandy was telling me while we were off air, she goes, Jeff, RFK is looking better and better and better. And she says, on many, many issues here, take Ukraine. He's another one. He's with Trump on this all the way. We need a peace settlement. We need a peace settlement now. We need to end that war. This is breaking as we speak. A massive dam, a crucial dam in southern Ukraine has now been destroyed. Now, Ukrainians are saying the Russians did it. The Russians are saying the Ukrainians did it. Whoever did it, it really doesn't matter at this point. We're looking at maybe now the worst man-made environmental disaster in decades. We're talking massive flooding. Hundreds of thousands of people are going to have to be evacuated. A major nuclear power plant nearby now may be affected as well. It's going to be an ecological, environmental disaster. The country's being destroyed. I mean, in the end, whoever wins, I don't know what you win. I mean, at this point, the damage that's being inflicted. Well, RFK, in fact, you know what? I think we even have the cut. Let's play the cut. RFK is almost indistinguishable from Trump when it comes to Ukraine. He was on a podcast with Russell Brand. Listen to what RFK Jr. said. Roll cut 26, Mike.
Ukraine today is a victim of U.S. aggression because our government has admitted, President Biden has admitted that this, the old neocon aspiration, this war is about getting rid of Putin. And his Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, acknowledged in April 2022 that the war is about the U.S. purpose of engaging this war is to exhaust and degrade the Russian army so they're incapable of fighting anywhere else in the world. So that is our objective in this war. And it is a proxy war that is using the bodies of the flower of Ukrainian youth, putting them into an abattoir where they are being mercilessly killed. And they've killed 14,000 civilians. It's 60% unemployment. The infrastructure of the country has been destroyed for U.S. geopolitical machinations.
He's completely right. He's completely right. It's a proxy war, and the Ukrainians are now being cannon fodder. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of Russians are dying as well. But the country is being reduced to rubble. It's being destroyed right in front of our eyes. And in the end, for what? Because they want regime change in Russia. That's what this is all about. The neocons, the war hawks, the establishment, whatever you want to call them, the war party, the military-industrial complex, take your pick, whatever phrase you want to use. But the globalists want a war with Russia, and they want to overthrow the Putin regime. And they're going to fight to the last Ukrainian to do it. And so he's completely right. So on Ukraine, he's very, very good. On the lockdowns, if you remember, I had RFK Jr. on. And he was on fire. Listen to him again, saying on this one, I'm against both Trump and Biden. They should have been much tougher on the lockdowns. Roll cut 27, Mike.
You think that the President of the United States and you, if you were to debate, what would that look like?
That's something that I would like to say.
I'd like to see it too.
I'd like to explain. I'd like either President Biden or President Trump explain the lockdowns to us. That was a $16 trillion mistake. We shifted $4 trillion in wealth from the middle class in this country to the super rich, this new aristocracy of billionaires. The lockdowns created a billionaire a day, 500 new billionaires, and the people who came into the lockdown with $1 billion increased their wealth by 30%. We had, 41% of black-owned businesses will never reopen. Some of those businesses had 2 or 3 generations of sweat equity, of currency, and we closed 3.3 million businesses without due process, without just compensation.
Yeah. Amen, 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 amen. So, by the way, 16 trillion is how much it costs the economy of the West, all of the Western economies, the United States and all of basically Europe. That was the economic 16 trillion. That's unimaginable. $4 trillion transfer in wealth from the middle and working class to the uber elites. 3 million businesses gone. Gone. And he's right. No due process. No rights were given. Nothing. Now, everybody now admits this was all paranoia. It was all hysteria. It was all fear-mongering and panic. And that's what drove all of this. Yet no one has paid a political price. No one. So I think on many issues, you're right. He is America first. Where I would disagree with RFK, and this is where I think he and Trump fundamentally disagree, is, for example, take the border. I think Trump is much tougher on illegal immigration than, say, RFK Jr. is. That, to me, is a very, very a key issue dear to my heart. On social issues, take like abortion or other issues like that. On crime, Trump is much tougher. So it's more of a right-left split when it comes to Trump versus RFK Jr. on some of these issues. For example, RFK is a big supporter of socialized medicine or nationalized health care. I'm against it. I think that would be a big mistake. But look, let me be very clear. To me, I like RFK Jr. a lot. I do. I respect him immensely as a man. And to me, he represents the sane wing, the best part of the Democratic Party. He's pro-civil liberties, pro-civil rights, anti-war, anti-deep state, and he's what the Democrats used to be, patriots. I mean, you can disagree on this or on that issue, okay, but their fundamental loyalty was to the United States of America. And he believes in the Bill of Rights and he believes in the Constitution. So in many ways, he is his father's son. He really is. What he is at heart is a John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy. I know it's his uncle and his father, but he really is a JFK, RFK Democrat. That's what he is. He represents to me the best traditions of the Democratic Party. He is infinitely better than Joe Biden. In fact, I got to tell you, the emails that I get the most are from people who say, you know, Jeff, I don't think if we vote in the Republican primary, we're going to make much of a difference. You know, whether it's Trump or DeSantis or whatever. But if we all declare ourselves independent, then we can actually make a real difference by voting in the Democrat primary and voting for RFK over Joe Biden. And I got to say, I mean, I'm going to vote in the Republican primary. I'm going to vote for Trump. You know, that's no question about it, unless he's not on the ballot. If he's not on the ballot, then I'm voting Ron DeSantis as my number 2. But I'm going to vote for Trump in the Republican primary. That's me. But if many of you say, you know, Jeff, really, I'm going to go independent, and then I'm going to vote RFK in the Democrat primary, I cannot disagree with you. I'm telling you. If Sandy told me, you know, Jeff, this may come as a shock to you, but I think I'm going to go independent on this one, and I'm going to vote RFK over Biden in the Democrat primary because RFK can win Massachusetts. And it would be a real blow to Biden, his candidacy, his campaign, and the regime. There'd be no question about it. Especially if RFK can take New Hampshire. So if many of you are thinking of doing it, you're not going to have the Kuhner man disagree with you. I'm not going to stand in your way. And, you know, I've always said this. I'd love to have RFK on again. I'd love to have RFK Jr. on again. A lot of questions I'd like to ask him. But look, I'm telling you right now, if it's a race between RFK and Biden, it's RFK all the way. And I could see him get to 37, 38, 40%, even with everything stacked against him. That shows how disaffected people are with Dementia Joe and his corrupt criminal regime. 617-266-6868 is the number. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Thanks for taking the call, Jeff. You know, we're living in the world of Benedict Biden where treason and treachery roam and have roamed for years. And I'm going to tell you, this country will not heal if this problem is not resolved in a way that everybody can be content with and know that everything that we've listened to with you and over the years of other conservatives, we know that if this thing does not get resolved and in a way that people can accept, the hatred and the division that's going on in this country is going to continue, and I don't feel that it'll ever heal if this thing doesn't come out in the right way. Now, you're looking at Tara Reid. You're looking at RFK. You know what? And even Trump. You know what they all got in common or could have in common with Epstein? They all could be killed. This is the kind of situation where treachery and treason, when you feel that people are petrified of telling the truth because they feel they're going to be killed by people in power in our country. I mean, what the hell kind of a world are we living in? We're living in a world that if it doesn't get resolved, it's going to collapse. It's simple as pie. I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I can tell you right now, things aren't right in this country. A lot of things aren't right. And I've named them in the past, and we all can agree. This is a very sick situation. If this country does not, how can I say, clean this situation up, I mean, I want to see heads roll. I want to see, when I say heads roll, I don't want people killed, but I'll tell you what, I want them to pay for their treachery. I want them to pay for their treason. I want this all to come out. I want it for everyone to see, and I mean academia, I mean the media, and I mean all of the other politicians that think that they can pull the wool over our eyes. They're going to see that they can't. I'm tired of being a puppet to them, because that's what we are. We're being held captive by our own damn country because of what it's doing. It's ruining its reputation around the world. It's ruining its reputation amongst the people who live in the country. And we're not standing for anything that we were built upon. So I'm telling you, Jeff, this has got to be resolved in a way that's wide open. It's got to come out in front of everybody in order for this country to heal. It'll never heal if this problem doesn't get blown wide open.
Dan, my question to you now is this. Look, we're really on the precipice. We now have the smoking gun document. We know it exists. The FBI admits that it exists, and they even privately admit it is devastating. Yet they're still refusing to hand it over. They're now clearly stonewalling. This is naked obstruction. It's a cover-up in front of our eyes. And not only are they refusing to hand over what they know is a document that will show definitively that the President of the United States, whatever puppet he may be, he is still technically the Commander-in-Chief, literally engaged in a pay-to-play bribery scheme in which he took $5 million and in exchange for changing the policy position of the United States. That is treason. It is textbook treason. And yet Ray is defending him. Garlick is protecting him. The entire FBI and DOJ are forming a wall of protection around him. And now they're even saying if this document ever does come out, the informant is supposedly afraid of his life, that he will be killed or assassinated. They're almost in front of our eyes saying, wink, wink, we'll take him out. We'll take him out. He's a dead man. You want that on your conscience? You want to play? You realize who you're up against, Comer? You realize who you're up against, McCarthy? We don't mess around. Ask Tara Reid. She's in Russia now. You threaten us, we will kill you. And yet, where is the media? I just find this incredible. And forget the corporate liberal media. I know they're in the pocket of the regime. Where's Fox News? Honestly, where's Newsmax? Like, where is everybody? You know, where are so many of these so-called conservative talk show hosts? To me, that's the thing I find unbelievable. We got him. It was the tapes that brought down Nixon. This is in fact, Watergate pales in comparison to this. They were talking about a break-in. It was a break-in, a third-rate burglary at the Democratic National Committee headquarters. We're talking now treason, public corruption, treason, bribery at the highest levels. And the FBI is clearly covering up and even threatening to murder people if this goes any further. And nothing. It's like everybody's deliberately turning a blind eye. Dan, is our problem ultimately we've now become a nation of cowards. Everybody is afraid. We have it too good. Everybody has their slice of the pie, and they don't want to now jeopardize what they have. And so in the end, yes, we talk a big game, people bark, they yap, they yak, but in the end, everybody is afraid to go for Biden's jugular because they're afraid of what the consequences will be.
I'll tell you, McCarthy, a lot of it revolves around McCarthy growing a set of balls and taking the sergeant of arms, putting Christopher Wray in jail under the Capitol, breaking this whole situation out so the American people can see it and understand it and not be divided over it, because that's the problem. They've had so much propaganda and so much cover-up. This is the largest cover-up in the history of the free world. People got to realize this. And we can't just stand by and watch it happen, especially when we know what's happening and people are admitting to it behind the scenes. McCarthy, if he's worth any salt, stands up, goes after Christopher Wray, basically bolts him to the wall, puts him in jail, and start making him sing like a canary. And then maybe there may be even more information that comes out, and that this problem has to be resolved. If this doesn't, it'll be the destruction of this country, or we'll be living in a society that we can't even recognize.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm completely with you. Dan, thank you very much for that call. No, look, yes, they're going to begin contempt of Congress proceedings. Yes, okay, that's good. Don't get me wrong, that's good. But to me, you got to call a press conference on the steps of the Capitol. You should have every Republican member of Congress there, every single one of them, all 221 of them, and, challenge the media, shame the media into covering this. We want the document the way we wanted the tapes under Nixon. And every member of Congress should be given their marching orders. You call up every local radio station in your district, every local TV station. You're going to tell them, I need 5 minutes. I got to talk about this. Go to your constituents. Raise the alarm. Let them know what's going on here. I mean, it's time to break Wray, break Garland, and break that little man in the White House. Instead, they're like a bunch of chihuahuas. I swear, it's just bark, bark, yak, 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 yak. That's all it is. So either you start playing some smash mouth football. I mean, do you want to save the country or not? Do you want to expose the crimes of this regime, really expose them or not? And so, no, what I'm starting to fear is this. McCarthy's in someone's back pocket. Again, controlled opposition. That's the problem. I look at Fox. I'm telling you, I'm like, you've got Kuhner on. How can you not go with say, well, hold on. Whoa. You mean to tell me the president of the United States is now directly implicated? He's been caught red-handed, engaging in bribery and treason? And what are you guys prepared to do about it? Well, we're going to hold him in contempt of Congress. Well, that's meaningless unless the DOJ does something. Are you going to have the sergeant at arms arrest him? Are you guys going to impeach him? In other words, what are you willing to do now? That's the question. Because talk is cheap. It's enough with the talking. You don't just talk the talk. You got to walk the walk. Jimmy and Sharon, thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you, Jimmy?
I'm just scratching my head here. You mentioned Fox News, and it's absolutely controlled opposition. I mean, you look at what's going on here. It's the deep state. We've been seeing this act before. What I'm most concerned about is this, though. Trump's on the Republican ticket. You have a legitimate candidate he's facing in Ron DeSantis, who, by the way, is chalking up win after win after win in Florida. I get it. It's not at the national level, but it's policy wins. Trump had 4 years, and the last year of his presidency was an absolute disaster. He basically handed the country over to Fauci.
Jimmy, can you hang on, please? I'm up against a hard break. So I think Jimmy's now going to make a case for Ron DeSantis. Let's go right back to Jimmy, and I've got a story for you. Oh, talking about the deep state. They're showing their true colors. Oh, 617-266-6868. Okay, the deep state now goes all in for Biden. They're going to hinge everything now on his presidency, not just the cover-up that is now being exposed of that infamous Biden bribery document, but you're going to see probably next segment, former FBI Director Comey now comes out and says Trump must be stopped at all costs, and every Republican must also be defeated It is Biden or bust. I kid you not. But first, let's go right back to Jimmy and Sharon. Jimmy, you were making the point. Yes, most Republicans controlled opposition. Fox controlled opposition. But the last year of Trump's presidency with the lockdowns, the shutdown, handing everything essentially over to Fauci was a disaster. And we have a candidate in Ron DeSantis who, not nationally, as you put it, but in Florida, has racked up win after win after win. Please pick up where you left off.
Yes, and look, I hate to make it about, the two choices, but it's clearly that's what it's going to come down to. I'd also like to remind everybody, Christopher Wray joined the White House, or I should say as acting FBI director in 2017. Trump was nominated president 2016. It's just another example of Trump not living up to exactly what he said he was going to do. And I'll cut him some slack. You drain the swamp. It's virtually impossible. The federal government is just such a bloated, bureaucratic nightmare that it's virtually impossible to do so. Well, let's not forget, the last time somebody with the last name Kennedy went up against the, quote, deep state, you can remember what happened to John F. Kennedy. Unfortunately, I don't think RFK Jr. stands a shot. He's got this whole vaccine, and the media's against him, too. So let's look at it a couple different ways. Trump, the media is dying for a Trump versus whoever presidency. The media makes oodles and oodles of money if Donald Trump is there and he's front and center. That's just simple as day. The guy's charismatic, I'll give you that. He sells newspapers, he sells clicks. But when it comes down to policy, you can't have an honest conversation with most Trumpers about his failures. And, the illegal border crossings, with Trump was out of control. And let's not forget the crime bill that Trump signed. We want to talk about all the crime that's going on in these cities. He had Kanye West in the White House signing that crime bill. Look, I could go on and on and on. But
Jimmy, Jimmy, I want to ask you this, because look, you're clearly building a strong case for DeSantis. Why do you think DeSantis ultimately is better than Trump?
Why do I think DeSantis is better than Trump? Look, I think he clearly is. He's clearly not as charismatic, right? But I think he's more focused on the policy outcomes. He has less of an ego. When Trump was in the White House, he consistently does things to grab the spotlight. I think it was during COVID, they wanted to give him, say, $3 trillion under the COVID spending. Trump said, no, let's give him six trillion. I mean, it always has to come back to Trump. And I don't think DeSantis has that ego that's just driving everything. And you look at it too, Florida is literally one of the only states who is really leading the country, making the blueprint on how to be red, how to deepen your state. So, across the country, they were ahead of the curve on the CRT in the schools. They were ahead of the curve on even the border, although they don't have they're not even physically, they don't have a physical border with Texas, but yet with Mexico, but yet he's sending people down to the border.
Now, Jimmy, look, I'm happy you mentioned that, because this is what I think DeSantis' strategy is. Now, again, you may disagree with me. I think his people now realize that Trump will most likely now be arrested again, and he's going to be indicted now a second time. It's almost inevitable. Trump is even saying it. So Jack Smith is going to come after him. Georgia now may go after him. So they may remove him from the ballot. So to be honest, it may even be a moot point. It may be now DeSantis, if they successfully remove Trump, it may be DeSantis is now for the taking. So I think that's why DeSantis is in the race. What I'm concerned about, believe it or not, this is going to surprise you. How much time left, Mike? Okay. What worries me, Jimmy, and I want you to listen to the cut I'm going to play on the other side. I think they're going to arrest DeSantis as well. I'm not kidding. Gavin Newsom now, yesterday came out and said that he's ordering California's Attorney General to now issue an arrest warrant to go after DeSantis. Why? Because of, you talked about the way he was flying out migrants and resettling them in Martha's Vineyard or in other parts of the country. So in other words, now they believe that Trump is going to go. Now they're going to focus on DeSantis. They're not going to allow any MAGA candidate to win the White House. On the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, you can text us 70470, 70470. This is an absolute doozy from 781. Jeff, just like the mob, the FBI says things like, it would be a shame if something bad was to happen to you or your beautiful family. They are absolutely threatening any whistleblower. Oh, there's no question. There's no question. Now, on top of that, just to bounce off of Jimmy's call in Sharon, this is leading in the Los Angeles Times. So the Los Angeles Times first broke the story. It's on Gavin Newsom's website. So don't even, forget me or the LA Times or whoever. It's on the California governor's website. They are now saying that they want to indict Ron DeSantis. Now you may say, Jeff, why? Well, what they're claiming is, just follow me, as the illegals pour in across the Texas border, they're now claiming that a busload of illegals were taken from El Paso, Texas, to New Mexico. And then from New Mexico, they were put on a plane, and then the plane was flown to Sacramento, California. Now, I swear to you, Jeff, I must be missing something. No. And they're trying to blame Governor DeSantis. Now, I don't know if they're trying to claim that his people, the plane was supposed to go to Florida. They haven't given us reasons yet. I don't know if the plane was supposed to go from New Mexico to Florida, and DeSantis' people said no, send him to California. It's a sanctuary state. Gavin Newsom says he wants him. Send it to him. I don't know what it is, but they're claiming that 16 illegals, 16, were sent to Sacramento and then dumped in front of the doorstep of the local Sacramento Catholic Archdiocese. And they're claiming that this was done without giving California the planning or preparation or advance notice that they needed. So they're going to charge Gavin Newsom with quote-unquote kidnapping migrants. I'm serious. That's what they're threatening anyway. They're also going to claim that he kidnapped migrants when he sent that plane load, if you remember, to Martha's Vineyard, and within 24 hours they were bussed and shipped to that, that military base, because, hey, the Vineyard has signs saying we welcome illegals, but they didn't want the illegals. So now they're going to criminalize DeSantis. Now remember, this is David Horowitz's argument. I read his book on the 2024 election. It could be, as he put it, the final election. Horowitz says they will never allow either Trump or DeSantis to ever come to power. They will not allow it. The Democrats will not allow it. The rhinos will not allow it. The deep state will not allow it. But the Democrats in particular will just not allow it. And once they put Trump in prison, they're going to criminalize and go after DeSantis. And they're going to put his ass in jail. Listen now. This is a former federal prosecutor, Michael Wiles, on News Nation, saying, oh no, we're coming after DeSantis. First Trump, we get him out of the way. And then Ronnie goes to jail. Roll cut 44, Mike.
The governor of Florida was strutting his stuff. In a very theatrical move, he took people who came into the United States and moved them from Texas to Massachusetts, to Martha's Vineyard. He had no legal authority as a governor to do that. And if he contracted with a vendor and they took action, absolutely. I'm a former federal prosecutor myself. If you take people and you give them the impression that they're going to get work, which is what was found, and they were just transporting them around the United States haphazardly, of course charges could be leveled not only against the governor, but any of his emissaries and the vendor, the plane that moved people. This is just inhumane, in my opinion. These individuals, once they hit U.S. soil, are considered to be persons on U.S. soil, and we don't treat them like chattel. Now, knowing that Governor DeSantis was going to run for president, this is all theater.
I told you, they're not going to stop. Today it's Trump, tomorrow will be DeSantis, and after that it'll be you or me. Now, they're open about it. They're brazen about it. Okay, now you don't believe me. Okay, listen now to this. So Comey, former FBI director, the dirtiest, most corrupt FBI director in the history of the United States, and that's saying something, believe me, now gave an interview with Jen Psaki from MSNBC. And he openly told Psaki, there is only one candidate anyone can be allowed to vote for. Quote, that's Joe Biden. He is the only one. The only one. She said, isn't there any Republican, anyone? He said, no, it must be Joe Biden. Not RFK, not anyone else. It must be Joe Biden. Why? Because now they got to cover up each other's crimes. For Comey not to go to jail, he has to make sure that Biden doesn't go to jail. And the only way they can guarantee any of this is to make sure that Biden is reelected, even though it's weekend at Joey's. The guy's a walking corpse. It doesn't matter. Whatever you do now, this is naked election interference. And he's saying it's not just me. The FBI, the deep state, we're all in for Joey. It's Joey or bust. Now, listen to Comey. It's an unbelievable interview. I mean, the gloves are coming off. They're saying now, the quiet part, now it's in our face. They're brazen about it. Listen now to Comey saying he spoke with Jack Smith's people, and he's got, as they put it, cleaning ladies, is a CIA term, people on the inside, within the DOJ, and he says, we're coming for Trump. And if he should win the primary, you know what's going to happen to him? Roll cut 15, Mike.
I mean, it's this crazy world that Donald Trump has dragged this country into, but he could be wearing an ankle bracelet while accepting the nomination at the Republican convention.
And could be wearing an ankle bracelet and be elected in November.
Yeah, it would be rejected if you put it in a script for a show, but you could have a president who is potentially incarcerated when he's elected president.
There you go. Okay, so they're going to put him behind bars. Now, listen to him saying, oh, no. He can never be allowed to come to power. We won't let it happen. Roll cut 18, Mike.
Previously, you had said publicly you didn't think indicting Trump was a good idea because of what it would put the country through. That was notable because, as everyone remembers, you have clashed with him on matters of substance, rule of law. Do you sort of view that differently now, or do you feel the same way?
No, I see it differently now. This conduct takes place entirely post-presidency. It is clear, if the facts are as I understand them to be, it is clear violation of really important laws, and it is something that can't be let go if the facts are there while still vindicating the rule of law. The rule of law would require, if the evidence is there, this case be pursued.
Okay, but how about any Republican? Anyone? 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 Listen to Comey. The Republicans need to lose in 2024, in 2026, in 2028. They must be politically destroyed and humiliated. Roll cut 19A, Mike.
I don't know what the Republican Party is anymore, and I don't know what its future is. I think the American people need to hand it, especially at the presidential level, a series of losses till they figure out who they want to be, because they're not a party that's consistent with the values of the country.
We're all seditionists. We're all insurrectionists, white supremacists. We don't share American values. This is the freaking former director of the FBI who got his ass fired by Trump, who literally, as we now know, was in on the Russia collusion hoax, agreed to illegally spy first on the Trump campaign and then on the Trump administration. And he's lecturing us on American values? The deep state is out of the closet. And now they're all in for the Biden regime. 8:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, the deep state now lashes out. They are all in on the Biden regime. Just people are wondering about the Gavin Newsom, Ron DeSantis story. Look, they're going to arrest this, or at least they're threatening to. Gavin Newsom now is calling Ron DeSantis publicly a, quote, small, pathetic man. And they say they're going to get him on kidnapping charges for apparently sending or flying illegal migrants, illegal aliens, to California as well as to Martha's Vineyard. So already now they feel confident enough that Trump is going to go to jail. And now, next, let's get rid of DeSantis. In other words, if we can deny them one choice, let's deny the voters another choice. Listen now to Comey saying we cannot allow Trump to come to power no matter what. For me, the FBI, my former colleagues, the deep state, it is for us a matter of life and death. Roll cut 19, Mike.
You said that Trump poses a near existential threat to the rule of law. And this is something, similar language that I hear privately from national security officials, some people you and I both know, who will say this privately about what a second term could mean. But tell me a little bit about the specifics of what he could try to do. What do you mean by that?
Well, think about what 4 years of a retribution presidency might look like. He could order the investigation and prosecution of individuals who he sees as enemies. I'm sure I'm on the enemies list. Because the president constitutionally does oversee the executive branch entirely, which includes the Department of Justice, prosecutors and investigators. And so he could direct that individuals be pursued. He could also direct all kinds of other conduct that people would maybe take to court to try to stop. But who enforces court orders? Mm-hmm. Mostly the United States Marshals Service, which is in part of the executive branch and reports to the president.
I mean, this is Orwellian. Like, this is unbelievable. Seriously, man. All Biden has done is target his enemies. The whole witch hunt against Trump is targeted from Biden and his people. Now it's DeSantis. The parents that the FBI was investigating because they were showing up at school boards and complaining about critical race theory and pornography being taught to their kids. The infiltration of Catholic churches. The targeting of conservatives. The going after January 6ers and throwing them in jail in gulags. Branding half the country a bunch of terrorists and white supremacists, insurrectionists, who are enemy of the people. Like, are you kidding me? All this regime has done is target its political enemies or its opponents. And he's like, oh, I fear a presidency of retribution. Good, yeah. He's going to put your ass in jail where it belongs. And that of the other criminals within the FBI and the DOJ and the CIA. Now, quickly, this is why I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is popping. Yes, he's more on the left. Trump and DeSantis are more on the right. No question about it. But he's an anti-globalist. And at the heart of his agenda, he says we've got to rein in the deep state. So he's with Trump and DeSantis on this all the way. He sees the abuses at the CIA. Hell, they killed his uncle. They killed his father, he now believes. He sees what's going on within the FBI, the DOJ, the intelligence community, what happened under the lockdowns, and with Big Pharma, and the NIH, and the CDC. So he's like, either we control them or they control us. And I think, to me anyway, he is the most dangerous, and I mean that in a good way. He's potentially the most popular and the most effective dark horse candidate. He's the one that I think could maybe pull off a mother upset. So I want to ask all of you, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Kelly Financial Services. Who do you think is the biggest dark horse candidate in the 2024 primary race? 1, RFK Jr., B, Chris Christie, C, Mike Pence, he's now thrown his hat in the ring, or D, Nikki Haley? Which of these four, I know the last three are Republicans, RFK is running in a Democrat primary, but in their respective primaries, who do you think has the potential to be the most effective, dangerous, successful dark horse candidate and maybe pull off one hell of an historic upset? I'm A. I think it's RFK Jr. I honestly don't see Chris Christie, who now is a paid assassin. He's just going after Trump. That's his job. Or Pence or Nikki Haley being able to beat either Trump or DeSantis. But that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhner. If you prefer, you can vote via Twitter, our handle there, at the Kuhner Report, KUH, N as in Nancy, ER, all of it one word. Angela in Hingham. Thanks for holding, Angela, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. I love your show. I love it. I listen pretty much every day. And I live in Hingham, and it has been taken over by 42-year-old liberal moonbats. Our town is so woke now, and I would love to have a side conversation with your team because the South Shore is completely lost its marbles. And 20 years ago, it was not like this. I'm 51 years old and have been here for about 20 years. It's crazy. But anyway, I wanted to bring up about RFK Jr. I've heard him speak a number of times on podcasts. And for your listeners, there's something called it's a British conservative website. It's called The Unheard. It is awesome. I get updates from them every week, and they did a big interview with him, and he talked about foreign affairs. He was awesome. He said everything that you were talking about, like Ukraine. He talks about the deep state. He basically says my uncle was murdered because he wanted to get rid of the CIA. I mean, he basically said that. And he said he thinks everything that happened during the lockdowns, what the FBI did was ridiculous. He would go after them. And people were joking on the website saying, well, he's going to get, he won't be around for too long, but I love him. And I think, and I'm a conservative. He's the only person that I would be okay with being our president if he was as a Democrat. But if you ever have him on the show, Jeff, you have to ask him three things. about the border, because he doesn't really talk about it. I want to know how he feels about the border, if he would build a wall, and what he would do with the 6 million illegals that will be in this country after this idiot president is done. Also ask him about energy. He is totally against the Green New Deal. He thinks it's crazy. He doesn't like nuclear, but he thinks it's ridiculous that we're doing all this electricity so fast that we can't handle it. The grid can't handle it. He talks about that. He hates the Green New Deal. And also ask him about merit and DEI. I mean, that's what's affecting local towns where I live. All this BS about, we're just going to make somebody a Supreme Court justice because she's black. He's completely against it, and he says it. So people in Massachusetts need to hear this from a Democrat. Trump will never win in Massachusetts. We all know that. But I grew up in Pennsylvania. I was outside of Philadelphia all my life, and there are a lot of liberals who would vote for not Trump because he's so toxic. They hate him. We live in a bubble here, especially in Kuhner country. We live in a bubble where people think Trump's going to win. He's not. I believe that even DeSantis, they're rubbing him the wrong way. They're making him look bad because of that "Don't Say Gay" bill thing. We need, but DeSantis is a much Trump.
Well, Angela, look, and thank you very much for that call, Angela. I really appreciate it. Look, I would just say is this. I mean, I look at the polls. I can only go by the polls. And of anyone out there, Trump is by far ahead. I don't just mean in the Republican primary. Head to head with Biden, he destroys him. In a way, he's up by 7. Now he's up in some polls by 9 or 10 points. DeSantis is up, but maybe 2 or 3 points. So in any head-to-head matchup, Trump destroys Biden in a way that no other Republican challenger does. So now, again, we'll see. Will that change after another indictment? Because that's what they're trying to do. Just bury him under indictments. So, we'll see. But so on that, I think honestly, on many ways, Trump is the strongest candidate. But, we can agree to disagree. To me, on Robert F. Kennedy, I will try to get him on. I think we will. He came on before. I don't see why he wouldn't come on again. I will definitely ask him those 3 questions. And honestly, another question I'd love to ask him on is on the issue of abortion. I want to know, does he want to federalize a pro-abortion law? Because that's what Democrats are now vowing, that if they can keep the White House and expand their majority in the Senate and maybe retake the House, they want to pass a law that would undo the Dobbs decision. So it's no longer would be in the states, which is where I believe it should be, but they want to pass it through Congress, a federal law, and impose, again, a pro-abortion regime on the entire country. So I really would like to know where Robert F. Kennedy Jr. stands on that and whether he's changed his mind on socialized medicine and national health care. Because to me, I've experienced it in Canada. My family's experienced it. You don't want government-run health care. The last thing you want is a socialized system here in the United States. A single payer, as they call it. A national healthcare system, a government-run healthcare system. You have no idea what it will do to your health, especially to those who are older. It will ration care. It will destroy the quality of healthcare. So I would ask him those 3, and I would ask these 2 as follow-ups. 617-266-6868. But no, look, I agree with you. I've been looking at the RFK Jr. candidacy, his campaign on the issues, what he said about his father, what he said about his uncle, what he said about the CIA, the FBI, Ukraine, on many, many issues, on the lockdowns, on civil liberties, civil rights. He's very good. He's very, very good. Jake in Gloucester. Thanks for holding, Jake, and welcome.
And Jeff, don't forget what Schumer said about the deep state, that they'll get you 6 ways to Sunday.
That's right.
Even though I can't stand that scumbag, he's absolutely correct because he knows he's part of the deep state, one of the integral parts of the deep state. And he knows what they can do. They can resort to murder. Jeff, we're witnessing the decline since 2008, a very rapid decline of the American civilization and the American experiment that began in 1776, led by Obama. The decline, it was going on a long time before that in our institutions that China got hold of the education system, the colleges, the professors. They snuck in so many engineers and so many people to infiltrate our government and our private institutions. So it's been going on for a long time. But especially since Obama was brought up to hate this country, and what a disgrace that he became president, we have a problem. This is their game plan. Anybody that gets close to even having a chance to topple the scumbag Biden, they're going to either put in jail, incarcerate, indict, or assassinate. This is the game plan. Comey let it out with that scumbag Jen Psaki already. And, of course, you wouldn't follow through on any tough questions because that's a plant. The whole thing is a plant, the whole deep state. Jeff, I don't know how these people sleep at night because you said something just now. Everything that Comey accused the Republicans of doing and Trump of, they have done everything. This dishonest, unethical, illegal act they have performed since Trump came down the escalator. It's just incredible. They will stoop to nothing. They will assassinate Trump if he gets close. They will assassinate DeSantis if he gets close. They're ringing out the bells right now. And as far as James Comer on the document, this is clear, naked obstruction of justice. This guy, this FBI director, Christopher Wray, is of course, a classic deep state. He should be in jail tonight. And Jeff, what did Ronald Reagan say? Because you and I and all of your listeners and all the honest people out there are trying to figure out what to do. If these politicians, these hierarchy in the Republican Party won't stand up for us, Ronald Reagan said, it's time for the people to take action. If 20 or 30 or 40 million people were willing to get out there and march to these people's houses, march to Washington, they're not going to arrest 20 or 30 million people. I know that's not going to happen, but I am willing, in my elder age, I am willing to go out there and march to Washington to fight for freedom. Back in 1776, our forefathers didn't have the technology with cell phones and TV and radio to communicate. They were just out there on pure courage, on pure guts, on pure you-know-what. In 1860, when Unions fought the South, they were out there on pure guts. Sure, they had maybe some telegraph, but that was spotty. They had no technology. That's pure courage. The kids today don't have that for the most part. They're busy with their cell phones. They're busy with their TV shows. They're busy crying about being triggered emotionally. We don't have that anymore, Jeff. So people like you and me and the people maybe in their 40s, 50s, and 60s have to get out there and show this deep state. We're still here. We're not going away. We have to fight them because the Republican Party is really not fighting them. Where's Mitch McConnell, that total scumbag traitor, scumbag, corrupt individual that made his living off the charity?
No, Jake, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. Look, and Jake, you're completely right. Look, they're in on it. I think it's now obvious. Look, it's all coming out in 2020. It's all coming out. Mitch McConnell was relieved that Trump lost to Biden. Mitt Romney was relieved that Trump lost to Biden. You could just run down the whole list. They were relieved. Some were openly popping champagne corks. So they wanted Biden over Trump. They still want Biden over Trump. So they're in on it because they're just as corrupt, or maybe not as corrupt, but they're corrupt as Biden. Now, they may not be $1 billion. I told you, Mitch McConnell, it's 80 million. That's what buys him. But the point is, they're part of the corruption. So they don't want this to end. And when they see a governor, even from Florida, like Ron DeSantis, who they go, ooh, what is this? He's going to fire Christopher Wray on day one? He's going to depoliticize the Justice Department? Whoa, what's this? He's going to start going after the deep state as well? No. Whoa. Hey, wink, wink. Someone needs to arrest this guy. So now they've got Gavin Newsom to be his hatchet man. I'm telling you, now they want to get him on kidnapping of migrants. I'm looking at this, I go, like, are you people serious? Like, do you really want a civil war? Like, so now it's what? You just put anybody in jail that you don't like politically because they pose a threat to the regime? What I can't wrap my mind around, this is to me what I can't accept this. The FBI in private now admits we've got the document. Does it show Biden is a traitor? Yes. Does it show he's a crook? Yes. Does it show him literally taking bribes? Yes. And selling out our country? Yes. And we're not going to hand it over. What? So the FBI admits they have the document that will sink Biden's presidency. And they're covering up for him? And they're so brazen that they're even telling this to members of Congress, like that Florida congresswoman I talked about earlier, Anna Paulina Luna, and then they even go like, mafia style. And if this informant, this whistleblower, if his name gets out there, how do I say this to you? He's afraid for his life. He's afraid he's going to get killed. Wink, wink. Okay? So everybody, back off. Are you kidding me? Seriously, are you effing kidding me? Ray should be gone. Heads should be rolling. Now, here is what we can all do. You're right. Protest, demonstrate, show courage, but even something more basic or simpler than that. You go on social media, you go to your friends, you go to your family members, and you just say, release the document. That's it. The Biden bribery document. $5 million is what he took in that one exchange in order to change a policy position. It's all there. Release the document. Like they did in 73, 74 with Nixon. Just show us the tape. We just want the tape. That's all they kept saying over and over again. Give us the tape. Hand over the tape. We want the tape. We're not going to accept anything less than the tape. Because their failure now, their refusal to hand it over is an admission of guilt. They're now admitting he's guilty as sin. So, hand it over. Hand it over. We want it. Hand it over. And it's not just that it'll sink Biden's presidency. It uncovers everything. So what did Obama know? Remember, this apparently took place in the Obama years when Biden was vice president, also when Hillary was Secretary of State. So it opens up everything. And why did the FBI cover up for it? And why did the DOJ cover up for it? And what did Brennan know? And what did Clapper know? So it opens up everything. That's why they have to fight tooth and nail to prevent this document from ever seeing the light of day. All we have to do, almost like we have to become like the left now, zombies. Seriously, like you have a drink with a friend. So how are you? I just want the document. What? No, hand over the document. Okay, what are you talking about? Well, it's the bribery document. Biden's caught red-handed. The FBI won't hand it over. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. So, hey, how was your day? No, I want them to hand over the document. Okay, you've already said it. I'll say it again. And I'll say it again. Until that friend tells another friend, who tells another friend, who tells another friend. And before you know it, it's good old-fashioned people power. Hand over the document.
I don't know what the Republican Party is anymore, and I don't know what its future is. I think the American people need to hand it, especially at the presidential level, a series of losses until they figure out who they want to be, because they're not a party that's consistent with the values of the country.
Boy, you're so nonpartisan, huh? Boy, so objective. It's just incredible. Boy, really it's all about the law, huh? Really above politics, huh? Former FBI director, that loser, James Comey, the dirtiest, most corrupt FBI director in the history of the United States. 9:20 here on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. 617-266-6868. Julie in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Julie, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Julie?
Good, thanks. I'm going back a couple of callers now. I don't forget the gentleman's name, but he was saying, that Trump didn't live up to, a lot of the things that he said he was going to do.
Oh, yeah, that Jimmy and Sharon. That was Jimmy.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. But you know what? I was in Florida, physically in Florida when the shutdown happened, and we couldn't even go on the beaches. I mean, let's not, sit here and say that DeSantis didn't shut anything down, because he certainly did. It wasn't as long as some of the Democrat cities, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. Imagine if you ran a race, okay, and you came in first place, and the people come over and they put the gold medal around the second place winner. Would you just sit back and be okay with that? No, you wouldn't. You would keep fighting and fighting and fighting. And I think that's why Trump is the only one that can do this. I really, really do.
Well, look, Julie, I look at it this way, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. One of the reasons, there's many, but one of the reasons why, again, I like DeSantis. I think he's done a great job as governor of Florida. If he happens to end up being the Republican nominee, I will definitely vote for him over Joe Biden. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. But why am I backing Trump? Many reasons. One, honestly, the election was stolen from him. I'm sorry. He's been wronged. They wrongfully took the election away from him. He should still be in the White House right now, and none of these things would be happening to us. So to me, as a matter of justice, as a matter of restoring our republic, I want Trump back in the White House. I want what was done, that dirty deed in 2020, to be undone. Another reason why I'm backing Trump, when you have somebody like a crook and a criminal like Comey, a traitor, saying Trump under no circumstances must be allowed to ever come near the White House. I'm like, if you've got the right enemies, I think you're doing something right. So, this idea that Trump is all bark and no bite, well, apparently they fear him enough. They don't want him back in the White House. So his bite's got to be pretty good. So there's many reasons. Also, honestly, I just think if you look at all of the major problems that we now face, the border, inflation, the economy, crime, the war in Ukraine, Trump addressed and solved all of those issues while president, and he could do it again. He's ready on day one. Now, honestly, do I think DeSantis is ready? Yes. But being a governor is one thing. Being a president is a different level. And everyone will tell you there's a learning curve, like in anything. And, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever, there's no learning curve with Trump. Day one, boom, he hits the ground running. So to me, at this moment, we don't have a day to waste. That's why I'm going with Trump.
And I just wanted to point out that, DeSantis did shut down. He didn't not shut down. He shut down beaches.
I got to ask you this, though, Julie. I remember a time, really, where our choices, on the Republican side, it was like Mitt Romney, John McCain, all of these, you could run down the whole list, George W. Bush, Bob Dole, you could, all of these people, and never mind all those who lost, so when I see the choices now, we've got Trump, we've got DeSantis. I mean, me, I'm a Trump guy, but we've got some good choices now. We finally have some people who go, hey, that's good. When I look at the losers that have run for the Republican ticket, or even, in the primaries in the past, I mean, holy shamoly, one after another after another. I remember it was always like, the lesser of two evils. It was always like, well, I don't know, who's worse? John McCain or George W. Bush? Okay, who's worse, John McCain or Mitt Romney? And it's sort of like, hold my nose and vote for this guy, or hold my nose and vote for that guy. At least now, we've got some good picks. I mean, am I wrong, Julie?
I don't think you're wrong. I think you're 100% correct, except for Chris Christie. I just think he's making himself look even worse.
Oh, yeah, he's a
than
joke.
he already does.
Oh, I agree. No, I agree.
What
Well,
are you doing?
Christie, Pence, all of them. No, but I mean, like, even RFK Jr., I mean, I'm not a Democrat, don't get me wrong. But I got to tell you, really, he's a very good candidate. I mean, I listen to him and I'm like, wow. Wow. It's refreshing to hear somebody be that honest and on so many issues be right. So I got to say, I can't complain. I think on this, we've got some good candidates. Now, to me, for the country, I'm with Trump. But, honestly, look, do I think DeSantis would make a very good president? Yes. In all honesty, do I think, again, I'm not a liberal, I'm not a Democrat, but do I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would be a good Democrat president? Yeah. I mean, on a lot of issues, he'd be good for the country. I'm just calling it the way I see it. .32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, the voice of the resistance. I was just telling Mike, who really wasn't paying much attention, but let that go. I almost feel, I feel dirty. I feel like I cheated on my wife or something, like actually saying, hey, I wouldn't mind if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. won the Democratic nomination, and if he was to win the presidency, I could see him actually doing some good things for the country. I would actually agree with him on some of the big issues. I never thought I would say that. I'm like, I just can't believe it came out of my mouth. Ooh, I don't know. Oh my God, I don't know. I don't know. I think I got to go to the confessional or something. 617-266-6868. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Thanks for holding, Arthur, and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. Well, to begin with, the reason you feel that way is because it's refreshing to see a good, decent man run for office. It's something we don't have in government anymore. And that's why you feel that way, because you can recognize it from the scum that's supposedly representing us today, and that's what's wrong with our government and our country. And we're in a situation now. We're the losers. Mitt Romney is still in office. John McCain, it took his death for him to leave office. He did nothing for Arizona, but watch it turn into a cesspool for illegals. He didn't help the border. He fell for that Steele dossier. I mean, he was a phony, just like that whole group of rhinos. And it's sad, and we're the losers because we keep putting them in there, and we'll continue to keep putting them in there. We don't fight for the guy that's going to lead us back to being a great country, because personally, I don't think we can be a great country anymore. These people have had 8 years of Obama. And they'll have 4 years of Biden. He's never going to go to jail. Nothing's going to happen to him, just like nothing's happened to any of them. In the meantime, these people, Obama turned around, and when he was president, he did things behind the scenes that were even more awful than what he did that were in front of the scenes. He destroyed our military. He got rid of 200 great generals. And even commanders below generals, and Biden has turned our military into a depleted unit, and we had the greatest military. You name me one military ever in the history of civilization that ever went to war with drag queens and won a battle. Well, it's not going to happen, and the military is not going to serve with these people. You wouldn't want to be in a foxhole. If you want to see what it's like to be with these groups of people, they're exposed all the time when they have their pride, the filth and the disgust and the stuff that comes out of their mouth is, and their behavior is intolerable, and it's exposed to children. That's lewd and the behavior and nothing, and it's criminal. It's disgusting what's going on in this country. But our military is gone. They're going to turn our country, our military, into electric tanks, electric planes, and who's going to supply our batteries? The batteries for them? Our enemy. Boy, we have to be the world's biggest suckers. You don't see China and Russia and Iran and all our enemies doing what they want us to do here because they know how stupid it is. This green thing is just a way to turn around and destroy our country. And boy, have they been successful. We're talking about Biden when he trips and falls. And who cares about if he trips and falls? He needs to be arrested. And somehow, some way, we have a total corrupt government. If we can't do something about the most corrupt man in the history of any country, I've never seen anything like this. The evidence is right there in front, and the media immediately comes to his defense. We have to get rid of this media. This is what Trump should have done when he was in office. That's why we're in this boat today. He had that one window, and he lost it, and they'll never let him back there.
Arthur, I'm just curious, because you're an astute observer of politics. You've been around the block a few times. Hoover, for all of his flaws, he was a patriot. He didn't want communists in government. He went after the Nazis during World War II, any saboteurs, infiltrators, collaborators. Did you ever think we would see the day that the director of the FBI is openly, nakedly covering up for a corrupt, treasonous president, that in private even says, this document will sink him, it will destroy him, but I'm not going to give it to you? Did you ever think you would see the FBI reduced this low?
Well, no, but not in the country that I grew up in. But in the country of today, yes, because Ray has done this over and over again. And if they have the document, what do they need it from him for?
Oh, you mean in other words, if they have a copy or whatever it is, or they should just release the copy and let him keep the original. And
I guess this is a flaw in our government. That they're allowed to get away with this. How, in God's name, can a man like Biden and just look how evil and that cackle and those cold, evil blue eyes of his is allowed to even cross the street without people? In other countries, the mob used to go and get these people, like they got Mussolini, and they got all these traitors. And this has been the biggest traitor that's ever been seen in this government. And the media comes to this fence, and this is all phony. This is all phony. And the politicians on the other side, this is all phony. It wasn't the Republicans that forced Nixon. It wasn't the Democrats that forced Nixon to resign. It was Republicans. And we don't have a two-party system anymore. We have one traitorous party and one American party.
Oh, you're dead on. You're absolutely dead on. Arthur, as always, thank you so much for that call. I don't want to get sidetracked, but, to me, the ultimate meaning of that debt deal, that treasonous debt deal, we have a one-party state. In essence, more Democrats voted for the McCarthy-Biden debt deal than Republicans. But still, the number of Republicans that voted for it, it was overwhelming, both in the House and in the Senate. So we now essentially have, what do you want to call it, a uniparty or whatever, a one-party state, with the exception of the rebels and those brave patriots who continue to fight for the United States. But outside of that faction, I look at the Republican establishment. Arthur is completely right. It was the Republicans who went to Nixon and said, you got to go. You don't have the votes. We're going to vote against you. We're going to vote to impeach you. Do you understand? The Democrats for sure, but we're going to join them. You're out. You're out. So there you go. The Democrats stick together. The Republicans, especially the rhinos, they always stab their own right in the back. Nick in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Nick, and welcome.
How you doing, Jeff?
I'm good. How are you, Nick?
Great, thank you. Real quickly, not why I called. Only 17 Republican senators voted for that. I wouldn't call that a partisan vote. Anyways, Comey, why is he out there with that red-headed twerp, Peppermint Patty? Why? He just happens to be part of the subject of matter with that document. What the document tells you is there was an investigation, but who was the bum who was the FBI director in the period of time when those people were receiving those checks, right? And when the whole operation started. That was Comey. That's why he's talking right now.
Oh,
right, enough of him.
That's a great point. Nick, that is a great point. When Biden was lining his pockets and selling our country down the river, who was the FBI director? Who knew? Who turned a blind eye? Comey.
That's why nothing moved on that case. So let's jump to the case and my dissatisfaction with Comer and the rest of them. Okay, at least he's doing something. But hey, there could be 24 subpoenas that should have been out the day after he came out with that announcement and that report.
Can you do me a favor, Nick? I'm up against a hard break. We're going to hold you over, take more of your calls. 617-266-6868. Don't touch that dial. Oh, Jeff Kuhner, the voice of the resistance. Okay, I want to go right back to Nick in Weymouth, just super quick. Here is the latest tweet now from Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Quote, I'm reading the whole tweet. Quote, confirmed the FD 1023 form implicating Joe Biden in a foreign policy pay-to-play scheme is real. At GOP Oversight Chairman James Comer and Ranking Member Raskin saw it today with their own eyes. The FBI and DOJ knew Biden was abusing his power and did nothing. In all caps, do our laws even matter anymore? That is now the question. Let's go right back to Nick in Weymouth. Nick, you made the brilliant point. Who was the FBI director when this bribe and this scheme took place? None other than Comey. Why is Comey now calling for every Republican to be defeated and for Biden to be reelected? Because he's now directly implicated himself. He oversaw and deliberately turned a blind eye to Biden's pay-to-play bribery scheme. Nick, please pick up where you left off.
Yes, and if Comey copped a plea and dropped a dime on Lynch, but more importantly, the literally contemptible Eric Holder, and of course their boss Obama, there'd be a lot of hash going around. Anyways, the report from Comer on the distribution to the Biden crime family members detailed two people who orchestrated the movement of the funds. I think one was named Rob Walker, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. The other one, the name escapes me. So you have those 9, 10 people, and you got 2 or 3 more. Okay, so you're talking 12, 13 subpoenas that should be going out, including one also, additionally, that crackhead son. That would be Junior Biden, Junior Idiot Biden, Bo, excuse me, not
Hunter. Yeah, Hunter.
Excuse me, I'm laughing. Hunter should be testifying. What's this all about? Who set up the LLCs? Well, Rob Walker, how did you know you were moving these things from A to B to C to D and then back to A to B and C again? How did you know that? Did you set up this? Is this a RICO thing? What the hell's going on? And for the other 9 or 10 crime family members, what the hell did you get this money for? And what other instances? This is not a difficult thing to put together. When and if it happens, I'll be amazed, and I hope it is. I don't know. What are your comments on this stuff, Jeff?
No, Nick, I think you're right. Look, it's really, I mean, they try to make it seem more complicated. They embezzled money. They were money laundering. And this was a massive bribery scheme. And it was influence peddling. Look, just objectively, why is everybody giving Hunter Biden all this money? Now, he writes a memoir where in his own memoir, he says, I'm a crackhead. He admits it. He's snorting stuff off the floor. What is it, mac and cheese or whatever, Kraft mac and cheese and the powder, the cheese powder. Yeah. So he's snorting stuff off the floor. He's so desperate to get cocaine up his nose. So you got a guy with no experience, no intelligence, no professional capabilities whatsoever. He's got one thing to sell, the old man, his father. It's so obvious. That's why they're all giving him the money. And then, of course, him and his partners, they then set up shell companies, and the money goes ultimately all the way back to the big guy with middlemen like himself in between. It's a very easy case. It really is. It's the way you prosecute the mob. It's the way you prosecute the drug cartels. I mean, the drug cartels, they operate the same way. They don't go, give Pablo Escobar $2 million on the table and he give you your cocaine. It doesn't work like that. They distribute the cocaine. The money is then sent through shell companies and LLCs and through different multiple accounts. I mean, come on. I mean, they're not, even criminals are not that stupid. But essentially, what you're seeing is a gangster state. It's a mafia state. They're oligarchs. And if we want to expose them, if the Republicans want to expose them, they can. The question is, do they want to? Do they have the guts? Do they have the patriotism? Do they have the stones to do it? That's now the only question. I want to thank you for that call, Nick. Look, I just want to say this about Comer. Say what you want about him. He's dug up incredibly damaging information. Biden is now hanging by a thread. He's got the document now, potentially, that could sink Biden. So, to me, Comer has done his job. It's now up to McCarthy and the Republican leadership. Do you have the heart? Do you have the stomach? Do you have, frankly, the basic decency and the patriotism to do what's right? Now, to me, the ball is now in McCarthy's court. Will you tell Biden it's time to go? That's now the only question. Maggie in Amesbury. Thanks for holding, Maggie, and welcome.
I'm going to make 2 quick points.
Yes.
One is, I can't figure out, now if I put my mindset into this corrupt, FBI agency, and I agree with everything you said, why did they hold on to this document in the first place? Like, if you're that corrupt, why didn't they destroy it? So that kind of baffles me and makes me wonder, is something even more going on? And then
I'll answer it right away. Hold on, I promise. I'll let you finish whatever else you want to say, Maggie. No, this is how gangsters work. Think about it. They always hold something over somebody else. Everything is based on blackmail. So if they need to get rid of Biden, you just pull it out. I mean, that's honestly, if I was one of them, not that I could be that evil or that nefarious or that devious, but you want to push Biden out. You go, okay, we're just going to release it, Joe. You want to go through that, Joe? You want to put your family through that, Joe? You want to go down as a crook and a traitor, Joe? You know what? Family reasons. You're falling down, health reasons, Jill, the doctor, your family. For family reasons, you just got to go. So they always have something in order to blackmail or have leverage over someone else. So I think to me, the KGB operated like that. KGB had incriminating, damaging information on everybody in the Politburo. Everybody. In case they needed to remove them.
Just so awful. And the other thing is, what are they waiting for? Like you said, time to impeach. You have to just keep being relentless as the Republicans. Hit. Let's start the process. You have enough to start the impeachment process. What are they waiting for?
I'm so with you. Well, that's the question now. What is McCarthy waiting for? I mean, they've got him. If you want to take him out, you got him. So my fear is that they have something on McCarthy. That's my fear. Because he's got a big mouth. He's got a loud bark, but he's all bark and no bite. And when I saw that debt deal, I'm like, this guy's not working for us. He's working for the swamp. Where did the time go? To the callers, you were magnificent. I gotta go. Bye-bye.